Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of our carrier build. In this one we got a little bit of an exciting one for you. You can see we get the engines running, as you can see in the background right now. But definitely stick around, we'll do that a little bit later in the video. In the meantime, we've got a little bit of detailing to do to the hull and the rest of the ship and whatnot, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll get into the engine plumbing a little bit later too. In the meantime, if you guys do like the build, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Keep coming back for more. I post these videos every Tuesday and Saturday. And like I said in the other videos, if you guys are new around here, this is going to be a little bit longer of a series. So I'm going to try to squeeze some other builds in between. But yeah, guys, I will get right into the build and then we'll cut back in and we will talk a little bit. All right. All right, well, you guys can see that we've added a few staircases down from the top deck, the landing deck, into the hangar bay. And we'll add a few other access points, but for the time being, this is going to work. I just kind of needed to have a general idea of where things are going to be on top of the deck before I start placing a lot of things inside the hangar bay and on top of the deck, if that makes sense. So, I mean, later on, we're going to be placing, places to refuel things, places to anchor things down, parking spots, that kind of stuff. So, this is just going to help us get a general layout of the deck and what areas we need to have clear and stuff like that. But right after this, I'm going to get a few more railings in, a few more paint blocks done, but we're going to transition down into the engine room. I know last episode we kind of put the engine in the ship, but we didn't really hook it up. So in this one, I'm going to hook it up. We're going to start plumbing, and obviously, as per typical, a lot of this will change. But for the time being, we get this thing running. One thing to note is later on, I actually make these engines a little bit bigger, and that is just so I can run the engine a little bit cooler. But for the time being, you see me right now, I am adding a giant ducting system for all of our exhaust. And because of this is an aircraft carrier, we're not going to plumb it up into the sky. I'm going to send it through a bunch of catalytic converters and then mix it into the seawater underneath the ship. I didn't want to have plumes of smoke above obstructing vision, and it's just kind of another thing to get in the way of landing on the ship. So I decided to plumb it straight into the ground. This is obviously a little bit extra work. I don't really know how realistic it is on a ship this size, but for our purposes, this is what I decided to do. So, and I think it looks good. Definitely let me know what you guys think. But this is the exhaust, and then after this, we're going to kind of work on the air, and the air is going to change a lot more than the exhaust is. The exhaust is pretty much permanent where it is for now, but we definitely change a lot of the air ducts later on. I think kind of what we end up in the end of this episode. It doesn't look bad, but I think it can look a lot better. So you guys will see, and we'll get into that in another episode or two. But this is more or less the engine, and we got two engines for redundancy. They're as low in the hull as possible. I'm going to try to run them at about 10 RPS or lower. Typically, I usually run my engines a little bit higher than that, but I got surprisingly good speeds with this engine setup as is, and later on in the build, and this is probably for reference for you guys, maybe like a month or two in advance from this. The ship currently goes about 50 knots, 40 knots. So definitely fast enough. Might try to squeeze a little bit of speed out of that, but definitely for what we need to do, good enough. So pretty happy with that. But yeah, guys, that's going to be just about it for the exhaust. We're going to get a few pumps in here. I'm going to start doing all the running of the wires and the info, the logic, that kind of stuff, get that set up. But I'm going to let the time lapse run. We will get the air all plumbed up. I'm going to just throw on some temporary fuel tanks, and then we'll get the ship running and drive it around a little bit. All right, so you see I got the air duct kind of in. And to talk a little bit more on what I was speaking of earlier, I think this looks okay with the what would typically be called the plenum in the center. I decide to kind of spread those out. Each engine gets its own. It makes more sense. It looks a little bit better. And then that way we also have a lot more headroom for this aisle down the center. And I thought that was actually really important because you're going to need to walk up and down there to service the engines. So the extra headroom is definitely useful, and mostly other plumbing wise, we will be able to cram towards the rear of the ship since we don't have a lot of crew livable space back there. A lot of the cooling goes behind the engines towards the rear of the ship, and we'll do a lot more of that later on. Cooling these 5x5 engines is usually quite a task. Usually it takes up quite a lot of space, quite a lot of pumps. So we'll definitely do that in another episode that usually honestly deserves its own episode or so. But for just, turning the engines on and driving the boat around a little bit, we don't really need to do that for now. So I'm just moving these drive shafts over right now, as you guys can see in the video. This just makes it line up a little bit better. I didn't want to squeeze the engines in, and I thought it was really weird having the drive shaft have to kick over one block. There's no good way to make it do that. So I moved the entire thing over one, and then the propellers are actually kind of where they are still. I just used sealable pipe blocks in the wall to move it over. But this looks a lot better, and it's a lot more in line with the engine. So it makes a lot more sense in my mind. But yeah, this is more or less what we're working with the engine. So a lot of this, again, is subject to change. It'll get a lot busier once I add a lot more of the pumps and stuff in here. But yeah, we're gonna go crazy with the details in here. This engine's gonna get fire suppression, climate control throughout the ship. We're gonna do bilge pumps everywhere, ballast tanks, all sorts of good stuff. So definitely stick around for that. This thing ends up being pretty good and pretty stable in the water, which is really cool because it's a big ship, but not a huge ship, and landing things on a rocking deck is not necessarily easy. So I add a passive stabilization and an active stabilization later on, and then all sorts of other stuff inside this engine room. But obviously I'm just kind of yapping about stuff that's way in the future right now. But yeah, you guys will see, and this is going to be just about it for this video. I'm just going to hook all this last stuff up, get the starters on the engines, and then I'll spawn it in and we will check it out a little bit. So here we are in the overworld, and I'm just going to teleport straight into the engine room. I left all the keys down here and the controllers and stuff. Usually a little chaotic when I build stuff, but it's a lot to hook up. It's very loud down here. A lot of pumps and stuff, but yeah, we got the engines running, and I will change the propellers later on. We'll get a lot more speed out of this using the variable pitch propellers, the new ones they just added into the game. But yeah, here it is, guys. You see it moving. It's on its own power, and it's guzzling gas. It's not super efficient. They're big engines, but yeah, I hope you guys like it, and stay tuned for the next episode. We're finally going to redo the hull in the next episode. There's going to be crazy, a lot of work. We basically cut the ship in like a quarter and redo it all, so stay tuned for that. But this is all I got for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you like the series, don't forget to hit a like and subscribe and come back for more. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.